morning, and welcome into Fantasy Football Live here in Week 14. And drum roll, please. Guys, it's playoff time.
Playoffs?
I'm Michelle Jingers, filling in for Amanda Borges, and joined here on set by Andy Behrens, Tank Williams, and our buddy Scott Pianowski. Good morning, guys. How we doing?
I don't know. We're a little upset we didn't get the memo on the red today.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We didn't even plan this, actually. We're just that in sync.
Oh, okay.
That's right.
All these new faces.
I'm only here today because some of my teams have buys. This is actually like a practice.
There you go.
Also, Brad not legally allowed to leave the state of Colorado yet.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll visit him later. How about we go to our LA studio this morning where we've got Liz Loza and Matt Harmon with us. What's going on over there, guys?
Well, it's week 14. No one is at 100%. But here's the deal. On this show, we play through it. I've got a busted foot. Liz, you're dealing with some things too.
I don't really have a voice, so I might be using the whiteboard quite a bit. Don't worry, Michelle, I'll be fine for Monday. Let's hope. So start-sits might be through the whiteboard, but we are, as Matt said, going to soldier on through because we set lineups even if we aren't in the playoffs, baby.
Which is brutal because now, if Liz is at less than 100% voice-wise, you're going to have to rely even more on me. So God bless you, people. That is the worst.
I have to say, this is my early Christmas present to Matt. He doesn't have to talk to me now.
Thank you, Santa.
Very
what a
good,
pleasure.
guys. Play through the pain. We also have our DJ Bebop Rocksteady and his original beats in studio this week. Bebop, what's going on?
Good morning. It's another tough week for the Niners in New Orleans. Hopefully they pull it out again.
Oh, and she's going to throw the hood out on your thing.
Not popular. Not a good thing to do when you're filling it on a show.
Right? The hate is real.
All right, finally joining us from Denver is Brad Evans. Brad, happy playoff season to you, sir.
Happy playoffs to you as well. What is everybody doing? Playing hurt this week. It's kind of crazy. Harvey, you got a busted foot, and Loza, that is a sultry, scratchy voice you're sporting right now.
All right, remember this show is all about you guys, so if you need help with your roster, you can find us at Yahoo Fantasy on Twitter. Use the hashtag AskFFL. Matt and Liz will be keeping an eye on that all morning long, and Dalton Deldon is answering questions live on Twitter. You can also call into the show. The number is 877-FFL-GURU, and we'll get to as many questions as we can throughout the show. But before we get into breaking down Week 14, how about we see who's in and who's out today? The most significant news, Jets running back Le'Veon Bell is out with an illness. And for the 5th game in 6 weeks, Adam Thielen will be out as well. The Vikings wideout dealing with a leg issue. Raiders running back Josh Jacobs is a game-time decision. According to Ian Rappaport, he's dealing with a broken shoulder plate. And finally, Texans wideout Will Fuller is inactive with a hamstring injury. Will Fuller. Okay.
Did you ever play through a broken shoulder plate?
Yeah.
Sounds like something.
I was gonna say, I don't feel like that's a game-time decision type of.
Like I had a torn labrum and stuff that I played through, and that was pretty painful. So I can't imagine a broken shoulder.
He's apparently been dealing with this since week 7, too, but barely practiced at all this week.
I mean, so does that mean he runs the risk of having a Dalvin Cook type thing pop up today?
You are so panicked about
I am panicked about Dalvin Cook. I will admit. Yes, I am.
Okay. All right, fantasy owners are always looking for the most dependable option to help them week to week, so it's time to decide which flex options are made of reliability, presented by USAA, who help their members achieve a better tomorrow. Now, these players are made to help you this week, so we'll send it down to Liz and Matt and former Army Green Beret and NFL long snapper Nate Boyer to help us make some flex decisions. Guys?
Well, I think reliability is obviously key, especially in Week 14, because you are looking for that stability in the first week of your fantasy playoffs. And I'm going to kick it off with a guy that Tom Brady undeniably trusts. It is James White. We saw him go ham last week, and this week they've got the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, we know that the Kansas City Chiefs are beatable against the run. Their pass rush is legit, though, so I think that means a lot of underneath targets for James White, who is averaging about 5 catches per game. To me, he is in that RB30 territory.
Well, me, myself, and we've got Sterling Shepard.
All three of you that confident?
Yeah,
all right.
all three of us. And one of the reasons is Eli Manning has an absolute lack of options at this point, with Golden Tate being out. But also, I've seen this before. A guy comes back, maybe his last rodeo, quarterback-wise, and he has a big game.
How dare you?
Let's
How
hope
dare
so.
you?
What do you
No.
How dare me what?
This is not Eli's last rodeo.
Don't do this.
No,
Don't
no,
do
no.
this. You're falling into a trap here,
right.
Nate. Don't do
Well,
this.
it's a good day to do it because you can't really talk back. But Sterling, they're playing the Eagles. He's gonna have a big game. I'm sorry. It's well, no, I'm not sorry. You're happy, right? But you're mad about Eli. Anyway, Eagles porous on defense. Not great defending the pass, and yeah, he's kind of due. He's had a few decent games, but Sterling is due for a breakout game. I think it's happening today.
Hey, we've got an Eli Manning wide receiver. I'll make it even a little bit weirder with a Washington running back. I mean, Darius Geis, though, at this point, has really started to play well. And the opportunity isn't exactly what you want to see because there's still going to be some Adrian Peterson. Chris Thompson is going to mix in there, too. He's not playing any more than like 50% of the snaps at the absolute best. However, I think he's looked so good with the ball in his hands. I think he's looked so explosive, especially after contact, that I think against a Green Bay defense that ranks 28th in Football Outsiders run defense metrics, and they allow the 4th highest yards per carry on the year, I think Geis can be a reliable flex for you, especially if you're looking for a little bit of a ceiling kick from your RB3 there. I like Geis this week a lot in this match.
Geis, or as my sister-in-law calls him, Darius Guice. She plays fantasy football. She doesn't watch the game.
Well, he's from
she's reading
Louisiana. There's a French,
Oh, yeah, there you go. There's a good twist to it.
He's a Guice guy, too. You know, he just slips through the defense.
Oh, man. All right, let's get out of here before we get any more Guice jokes.
All right, thanks, guys. Time now for Off Their Game. These are players who are more than 50% owned in Yahoo leagues, but they may not get you as many points as you would like. So let's start with Tank. Who you got?
Well, since they're talking about Darius Geis, Sterling Shepard, this confirms that this week is going to be the upside down, so I'm going with Saquon Barkley. Now, we all understand that the Philadelphia defense is really tough against running backs, 27th in fantasy points, 29th in rush yards, but it's the return of the Eli phase. Eli's going against the worst, well, one of the worst pass defenses in the league. He's on primetime football. We were just talking to Michelle the other day about how everyone in New York loves him, and I think Eli comes out, balls out, and just confirms that this really is the NFC least. Saquon Barkley, don't start.
I shouldn't say like they all love him. I mean, I think they understand that he has more rope than I think a lot of quarterbacks have had.
Level of sympathy.
In the yes, some sympathy. Yes. How about you? Yeah.
I'm going to go with John Brown, a guy who's had an absolutely stellar season so far. Don't love this matchup at all against Baltimore. Baltimore, over the last 5 weeks, has allowed the 5th fewest fantasy points to opposing wideouts. Haven't allowed a 100-yard performance since week 4 this season. And we also have to remember that John Brown has only gone 5 catches, 65 yards over his last 2 games. It is not a blow-up spot for him. I think he finishes outside the top 20 wide receivers for fantasy this week.
All right, Scott, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm going to stick in the same stadium. Andy just took us to Mark Andrews. Look, you think, why would I ever bench this guy, right? Well, Buffalo is the hardest team to score tight end points against this season and last season. This is something they've seen coverage has been outstanding. Over the last 5 weeks, Andrews is 12th in tight end targets, 14th in tight end catches. Needs the touchdown deodorant. I don't think he gets it this week. And what's going to be a low-scoring slugfest, I think Andrews is going to be out of the top 10 for tight ends.
All right, I haven't had enough Brad Evans yet, so why don't you round us out?
Yeah, mine's Drew Brees. Look, I know he's been a gale force at home in his NFL career. Sterling, 8.1 air yards per attempt, over 290 yards per game, 2.3 touchdowns per contest there in the creature comforts of the Superdome. But San Francisco is stiff and stingy in that secondary, spearheaded by a future Hall of Famer, I believe, in Richard Sherman. They've allowed the lowest ADOT of any team in the league, well below 200 yards per game, just 1 touchdown per contest through the air. Only 2 quarterbacks have gone over 20 fantasy points against them. I think Brees will just be a puff of air and merely nothing else. Something like maybe 280 yards, a touchdown, a couple of turnovers. That's all I'm expecting this week. I'd rather have a Tannehill or Fitzpatrick in my lineup ahead of him.
Can I just say that I need big weeks from literally everyone that we've discussed in this segment? This is not going well.
Well, you're in the lead as of right now, but you mentioned that you don't do a good job of keeping the lead, so maybe this is the beginning of the end.
You know, it's so frustrating to watch this New Orleans offense where they need 15-play drives. They can't go over the top, nothing easy, and it doesn't look like Alvin Kamara has the same juice he's had in past seasons.
Coming back from injury, yeah. No, I would agree with that. Don't love that because I'm a Saints fan, but all right. So let's get a check of our social channels. As I said earlier, Liz and Matt handle all of that for us. So guys, what's going on?
Yes, it is time to help you, the people, in this most crucial week. We're going to hit a couple tweets first, and then also we're going to take one question from the chat. As usual, use those emojis to catch my attention so you can get your question answered. But our first one here comes from Twitter, as I mentioned, at J_CZR. Two couple volatile ceiling plays here. We've got Sony Michel or Curtis Samuel. Nate, I'm going to kick this one off to you first because I like to keep you thinking.
I like Sony. You know,
Yeah.
I've never been a Panasonic guy.
Oh, God.
This is all I do.
Just
This is all I do.
Just
All I
crushing
got.
it.
You bagged on Eli Manning and just busted out the worst dad joke I've ever heard.
They'll get
Like,
worse. Don't
oh
worry.
my
It's early.
God.
It's early.
Yeah, we still got a few more blocks here.
Yeah. No, I like him. I like the matchup. Yeah, I'm on Sony Michel. I'll just stop right there.
So I actually don't think Sony is a ceiling play. I think he is more of a floor play because the hope is, like we saw last week, that the Patriots are successful in playing keep away from Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, who have admittedly looked a little bit off. So I'm going to go with Curtis Samuel because I think he is the ceiling play. There you go.
Oh,
Ceiling play.
Sony is the flow play.
It's floor.
Well,
That's
almost.
Fleur.
floor.
No, it's Fleur.
See?
It's just flow. Anyways.
We're going with the French theme, so I'm going with Samuel. What about you, Matt?
I'm with you, actually, with Curtis Samuel here, because my worry with Sony Michel and why I say he's only a ceiling play, not a floor play, is because we've seen running backs kind of get taken out of the game. Josh Jacobs last week against the Chiefs, we saw with Melvin Gordon in that Mexico City game. If the Patriots can't keep it competitive, which their offense hasn't looked like they can keep it that competitive, I think he gets taken out of the game script here. That's why your pick of James White's very good, too. So I'm going to go Curtis Samuel there against a vulnerable Falcons defense. Now, let's move to our next one from Rebecca Chandler. In a full PPR, and I think that is crucial here, she needs one from Tyler Lockett, Joe Mixon, or Tyler Boyd. It's really tough for me to go away from Lockett, even though we have had not a lot of success lately. But I think Tyler Boyd is the safe PPR pick here. How about you guys?
You know, I got a personal friendship with Tyler, and I love Tyler, but that receiving core has been blooming. You know, a lot of these young guys are getting a lot of targets, and it's nothing on him as a player. Like, he's phenomenal, but he has lost a lot of those targets. So it's going to be tough to go that direction. I'm probably going to go Joe Mixon, actually.
Okay.
You know, if it's full PPR, and even if he just gets 3-4 catches out of the backfield, that's a huge upside. You know, with the running game too, and he'll probably score.
I am in lockstep with Nate on this one. I agree that Joe Mixon is the play as well. Lockett, you mentioned the volume. Also, the matchup very brutal against probably Jalen Ramsey in this one. And Mixon last week against the Jets, who have quite a good run defense, evaded 7 tackles. So give me Mixon as the most reliable of these 3 guys.
I love it. And our question from the chat room, we had one with a lot of those like okay little emojis that look like that one. Some thumbs up, which is not very creative, but good enough. The question was good. Miles Sanders or Josh Jacobs in PPR, which one do you guys prefer?
This is easy.
You've got to take already.
Yeah, it's Miles Sanders.
All right.
Back on the Miles train. Remember that? That
I
was
mean, I
weeks ago.
did. Well, Jordan Howard still isn't playing. Josh Jacobs, we talked about, is super injured, and Sanders has both like appeal on the ground and also a nice floor in the passing game.
I'm with her, and I like the matchup better too. I like, you know, the Eagles versus the Giants. I mean, they're playing the Titans, who stout on defense.
Yep.
And yeah, if he's banged up, that's a tough one to go to. I go Miles too.
Yeah, let's make it 3 for 3. I really like Miles Sanders this week. That workhorse role is finally here. So keep hitting us all day in the chat room. Let us know what you guys need, and we are here to help you.
All right, great stuff, guys. We'll check in with you again soon. Time now for our first quick slant of the day. And, you know, we've been talking about New Orleans already, so why not head to that big NFC matchup with playoff implications? I'm obviously talking the 49ers taking on the New Orleans Saints. Drew Brees against a very tough San Francisco defense. Andy Behrens, what stands out to you about this matchup?
Yeah, let's actually start there. So the San Francisco defense has held 9 different quarterbacks below 200 passing yards. We get that facing Drew Brees, who is always great at home. Nothing but goodness at home. All-time Inner Circle Hall of Fame quarterback, all that. I don't know, what are you guys expecting from Brees today? I have him outside my top 12, which is kind of crazy for a Brees home game.
Yeah, I mean, San Francisco right now, maybe the best defense in football, and they're a very physical team. The 49ers are, and I think New Orleans is a finesse team, a dome team. Often you see teams play that manner. I don't think they want any part of the San Francisco defense. I think the first team to 20 wins this game.
Yeah.
The thing I'm trying to figure out is everything Kyle Shanahan does in his backfield works. Okay, he uses Mostert, it works. You get a 4-touchdown game out of Tevin Coleman. We know Breida is a really effective player. He's back. Where can fantasy owners go in this backfield?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
I've almost punted on the Niners backfield this week. I have them all outside the top 20, which is clearly wrong. Somebody's going to be
If I
a
had
top
to play
12,
one,
top
I think
15
it's
back.
Mostert, but it could be a hot hand situation. We don't know who's going to rip off the first 12-yard run.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're going to play the Niners, I mean, it has to be in the pass game. Jimmy G, I mean, you have a really good matchup on the outside. I think Lattimore will probably be on Sanders, so then Samuel in the slot. That should be the play.
With the Saints, just offensively, you know, with going up against such a tough defense, do you think this is where Sean Payton maybe gets a little bit more creative, goes to one of his other multiple players that he can go to?
You know Michael Thomas is going to get his, and I think it should be, when is the Kamara game coming? If it's not going to come now, then I don't know when it does.
Hasn't scored a touchdown since September. We should actually go to Brad and get his take on the backfield, too.
Yeah, look, Alvin Kamara scoring today, guys. This is a blow-up opportunity for him. And you look at the last 5 games for the San Francisco 49ers, giving up 4.7 yards per carry, close to 100 rush yards per game to the running back position alone. So I think he gets off the schneid. I think the TD drought ends. I am starting him comfortably, and I'm getting peppered with questions on Twitter about him. You are playing Alvin Kamara, for the love of God.
All right, I'm good with that. Alvin Kamara having a big day today. I'll take that.
The Saints
All right.
fan will take that. Okay, sure.
Okay, guys, it's time for our first commercial break. When we come back, the perfect playoff recipe to help you survive in advance. Stay with us right here on Fantasy Football Live. And welcome back to Yahoo Sports Fantasy Football Live. It's time now for the fantasy recipe for success, brought to you by KFC's Nashville Hot Chicken and Waffles, the perfect combination. These are quarterback wide receiver combos who are sure to light up the scoreboard for your fantasy squads and in DFS this week. So let's start in studio here. Andy, you take it away first.
Oh, yeah, I'm the genius who gave you Sam Darnold last week, so why not start with me? Sure. I'm going to go Gardner Minshew and DJ Chark in this one. You can get them in our daily game for a combined $43. That's a great deal. Minshew only 23. You look at their performance together. Chark has averaged almost 70 receiving yards per week, 8 targets per game with Minshew. Chark has caught 5 of his 8 touchdown passes from Minshew. They're facing a Chargers defense that just gave up multiple touchdowns to Drew Lock. I want a piece of this.
All right, that's a good start there. Brad, how about you? What you got?
Look, I'm going to go with Ryan Fitzpatrick and Devontae Parker. Look, the Lorax, I like to call Fitzpatrick with that big bushy beard. He speaks for the trees and brings opponents to their knees. And the reason why he does that is because of the budding Devontae Parker, who's been money in the bank for fantasy purposes here over the last several weeks. In fact, he is wide receiver 6 in terms of fantasy points per snap since week number 4. Fitzmagic went for a hat trick of touchdowns in the first matchup against the New York Jets. And I know the Jets have shown some improvement against the pass, giving up just 6.9 yards per attempt. But this game's got shootout appeal, and I think Fitzmagic will wave that wand and get Parker the end zone one. So both those guys, low dollar, $23 for Fitzpatrick, $20 for Devontae Parker and Yahoo DFS. Easy money all day if you get them stacked in your lineup.
All right, a little Fitzmagic action. How about you, Scott?
Yeah, and remember with that game, Jamal Adams isn't going to play for the Jets, which makes those Miami guys even more appealing. I'm going to run it back on the other side. Sam Darnold wasn't good to Andy. He's going to be good to me. Quarterback 3, quarterback 7, the other 3 games. And the one guy who balled at Cincinnati was Robbie Anderson. He got 101 yards and 10 targets. Those are season highs. He scored touchdowns in the 2 previous games. No Le'Veon Bell today. They're going to need more Sammy. It's going to be like Cheers. They're going to be yelling out, Sammy, as the Jets are going to put up 30+. I'm guaranteeing 100 and a tutty for Robbie Anderson. I'm DFSing both of these guys.
All right, big expectations.
Yeah, and I guess I'm batting cleanup because I'm the dude that brought you A-Rod and Devontae Adams last week, and I'm about to bring it back with Jacoby Brissett and Zach Pascal going against that Tampa Bay defense because Marlon Mack's coming back with a broken hand. You can't run the ball against Tampa Bay anyway. They give up the 5th most points to fantasy quarterbacks, 1st most to wide receivers, and I can't think of a better recipe for a shootout than guys playing for contracts, a.k.a. Jacoby Brissett, and guys playing for the playoffs. Brissett.
Playoffs?
Oh, and Jameis is playing. Oh, yeah, playoffs. That's just, all day, every day.
All right, very, very good. Thanks, guys, very much. And don't forget to try Nashville Hot Chicken and Waffles at your local KFC
I love chicken.
restaurant. Time now for the latest questions on social media. Let's send it back to Liz and Matt and Nate standing by.
Yeah, we're going to hit up our chat room for questions. So remember, use those emojis, get your questions in, yada, yada. You know the deal. Anyways, let's start off with one that has Zach Pascal. Tank was just talking about him. We got a question from Facebook. Zach Pascal or James Washington? Who do we like better this week?
Who do we like?
Well, Matt's been honking about James Washington all week, and for good reason. I'm going to talk him up a little bit later, but I'm going to lean towards Zach Pascal because in my estimation, I look at the projected over-unders for each of these games. Tampa Bay, the opponent for Zach Pascal, and the Cardinals, the opponent for James Washington. And I have to say, according to BetMGM, the higher over-under is in the Colts-Bucks game. So I'm going to lean towards that to Pascal because I think there's just going to be more opportunity for him.
Don't disagree with that, but I am going to lean towards James Washington simply because I think I talk a lot about on this show how guys have just destroyed my Longhorns in college. And he was another one of these guys, you know what I mean? He had an incredible catch. Was that last week or 2 weeks ago? That's unbelievable.
I think it's 2 weeks ago.
The old Edelman snag.
Yeah.
They've got that connection, I think, against the Cardinals. I think it's going to be a shootout as well. I know the Cardinals haven't been scoring like they were. Kyler Murray's been down, but I don't know. I think it's going to be a big game, a lot of points, and James Washington attributes to some of that.
I'm going to go with James Washington as well. I think both of these are good matchups. Liz, you're right. You could probably lock in a little bit more volume for Zach Pascal, but that Colts passing game has just been such a mess of late. Jacoby Brissett has really regressed. I'm going to go with the guy, James Washington, who's got the hunting narrative connection. I mean, hunting narratives, guys. Like, you're no closer to someone than when you're out there doing that with them. Delvin Hodges, James Washington, I like that connection. I'm going to go with him there, but it's a close one. Let's move on to our next one here. We've got a question from Victor from Facebook. Tyler Lockett or Sterling Shepard today, and they sent in the siren emojis. Big fan of the siren emojis. I'm going to go with Tyler Lockett here. I know this is probably a little bit aggressive. I like your analysis on Sterling Shepard from earlier, Nate, but at the same time, I'm not trusting Eli Manning. Sorry, just can't do it. Golden Tate's probably going to be back. Tyler Lockett, I think, should be a little bit over some of the injuries that he had earlier, some of the illnesses that he's played with as well. I like him in this game, especially when you look at the cornerback matchups. Nickel Roby-Coleman is solid in the slot, but I think Tyler Lockett can get over there vertically.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I mean, Sterling, great flex option, but I think Lockett's still a wide receiver 1 or 2. He's in my lineup this week. He has been down, hasn't had the targets, hasn't had the production, but I think that's going to be a shootout as well, Rams Seahawks tonight. And I'm looking for him to have a big game. And The guy just catches balls. He finds a way. There's not a lot of space, and Russell Wilson throwing to him. You know, it's Russell. If you're looking at Russell versus Eli Manning, I'm sorry. At this stage of the game.
I understand. I would say that probably the comp to at least the chemistry between Russell Wilson and Tyler Lockett is akin to what we've seen with Aaron Rodgers and Jordy Nelson, right? They don't need a lot of volume to connect. However, I don't think that Lockett is only going to be on Nickel Roby-Coleman. I think Jalen Ramsey is going to go after him, and that is why I am going to lean towards Sterling Shepard.
That's not
also,
why.
there's no Evan Ingram. There is no Evan Ingram in this matchup, so I think the volume is going to be there for Shepard. It is not a sexy play, but as my esteemed colleague Brad Evans says, sometimes you do have to sit your studs in favor of the matchup.
Well, on that note, let's take one more from YouTube. Ryan Macklin wants to know, DJ Moore or Odell Beckham? I think, you know, we would have thought coming into the year, one of these guys is the stud and the other is not. Look, Beckham has a good matchup, but there's a report out there from Ian Rappaport that he's been playing through a sports hernia all year, that he's going to need surgery on as soon as the season ends.
How convenient that there's an injury that's created this whole issue.
Liz, you're playing through an injury right now.
That's
Matt,
right.
You're playing through an injury. No excuses.
No excuses. Come on, I get it. So, but honestly, I think DJ Moore's the stud play here, quite frankly.
I mean, I'm going to go with Odell. I'm sorry. I think it's the same situation as Tyler Lockett, too. Like, it's been down, but, like, it's still, Baker Mayfield still finds his guy. You know, it's very rare that it just happens week after week after week after week with the star like that. Like, they have those games, all of a sudden they turn around and you're like, oh, there he is. He had 10 catches for 200 and a couple of touchdowns, like, out of the blue. And not saying he's going to have a game like that, but it's just hard to bet against Odell, in my opinion.
I think the matchup, and I mean, I will bet against Odell, but in this matchup, I will not. So I'm also going to agree with Nate and say OBJ.
Yeah, I'm taking the safe play here with DJ Moore, but good luck to you, Ryan. And keep tuning in all day for the chat. Liz and I will be helping you through the remainder of our show.
All right, great stuff, guys. Thanks again. Time now for Shootout or Shutdown. We'll go over the high and low Vegas point totals for a couple of games, starting with the Colts and Buccaneers. Andy, what you got?
Yeah, big number in this one. It was 47 the last time I saw it. So Tampa Bay's defense has been super friendly to opposing quarterbacks all year. Second to last in terms of passing yards allowed per game. But Jacoby Brissett has thrown 2 touchdown passes in like his last 5. Anybody rolling with Brissett today? Any interest there?
This game makes me nervous. T.Y. Hilton out. Marlon Mack off an injury. Eric Ebron out for the season. Jack Doyle, you know, he's a catch and fall guy. Paris Campbell's coming back. What do you expect from that? I think the Colts offense is really hard to trust, and Jameis Winston, he's going to throw 2 or 3 of the other guys. They don't know who their running back is. Jones last week blew blitz pickup. He wasn't playing. Barber averages about 3 yards a carry. Yeah. I think this game is a fantasy trap. Yeah, you're going to play your Tampa Bay receivers. I'm going to play probably Jack Doyle anyway. I don't think this game goes over the total.
Where do you have Jameis this week?
I think all these guys go off, actually. I think Reich was playing conservative because he could, but now that Houston's taking off, if they want to try to make the playoffs, then they gotta unleash it. And you can't lean on Marlon Mack with that run defense against Tampa Bay. So Jacoby's gonna have to sling it. And if he has to sling it, that means Winston on the other side is gonna have to do it too. So
you know what I do here? I go to BetMGM and I take the Colts +3. That's what I do.
Brad, you got a take?
Yeah, don't play Marlon Mack. That's my take. Look, I know the return of the Mack is back, and everybody think he's going to drop a platinum hit, but, I mean, it's Tampa. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they got sharpened swords there in the trenches. They've allowed the fewest fantasy points at running back position this season. They're top 3 in adjusted line yards allowed, according to Football Outsiders. And Mack, you know, he's going to be toting the rock with his offhand. I've seen a lot of props out there at various books, well under 50 rush yards. So that gives you a really strong indication of what the floor is potentially for him. It's not good. He's got to trip and fall in the end zone to justify being an RB2 this week. I would not trust his services.
Okay, wise words maybe. How about the Bengals and the Browns?
Yeah, is this one as simple as just start all of your Browns? I'm rolling with Baker Mayfield in a couple of places. That Cincinnati defense has been super generous to both the run and the pass. Who interests you here?
Yeah, but the Beckham thing, 2 touchdowns. We're in week 14. Maybe it's the groin injury. I mean, look, Jarvis Landry's their best receiver. Let's accept this. I'm actually excited about the Bengals. Remember how Miami couldn't do a thing with Josh Rosen? Then they put Fitzpatrick in, and now the offense is credible. I think that's what the Bengals get now, where Dalton is a professional quarterback, Boyd's back in play, Mixon's back in play. I do think this game goes over the total. the one guy I just don't trust is Beckham. I actually think you could sit Beckham in a playoff game this week.
I just don't know if the Bengals blew that wide last week, like getting that win against the Jets. I mean, I feel like there's some stuff set up where Baker Mayfield has the hand injury. You're hearing the stuff about OBJ, so that makes you want to get off. Those guys actually have Baker in season long, so you may think about pulling them, and then all those guys go off. So roll with your Browns.
It's a rare good spot for Joe Mixon. In the unlikely event that he made it to the fantasy playoffs with Joe Mixon, this is a blow-up spot for him because the Browns have allowed over 4.5 yards per
Props
carry.
to the Jets. They found a way to lose to the winless Dolphins, winless Bengals. If you if you have no wins on your fantasy team, just go play the New York Jets, and they'll lie down for you.
I think Baker Mayfield's going to show up today. He knows the pressure that's on him, and he knows he's underperformed this season. I think this is a perfect opportunity
Shake and bake
for him to show what he can do. All right, so let's move on to our fantasy freebies this week. These are players who are under 25% owned in Yahoo leagues, but should have a big week. So let's send it down to LA for this one.
Thank you, Michelle. Michelle, by the way, you look fantastic. I'll see you tomorrow. I miss you already. I haven't even had I'm gonna go with James Washington. Ironically enough, I told you I was gonna talk him up a little bit later, and now here is the time to do it. Matt talked about the hunting narrative. That's cool, but also he has been maybe the lone bright spot in Pittsburgh with so many players either underwhelming or banged up. Juju Smith-Schuster is out again in this one. James Conner out again in this one. James Washington and Duck Hodges have this chemistry with Duck Hodges under center. James Washington has cleared 95 yards and scored in back-to-back weeks. Sure, he's going to see Patrick Peterson in coverage, but the veteran cornerback has definitely struggled this season. In fact, he's allowing a passer rating of 123 when targeted. I think James Washington is a solid flex with a nice ceiling in Week 14.
I'm extremely disappointed in you. How do you not take Eli? This is your moment.
We did
Go get your man, girl.
We did tweet about it. He's married.
Not in your fantasy. Not in your fantasy.
Oh, wow. Nailed it. You're on fire this morning.
No, I'm not. I'm just trying to win that dad joke award.
How do you know what my fantasy is, baby? You don't know if he's married or not in my fantasy.
Anyway, I'm going to take another quarterback in my fantasy. It's Ryan Tannehill. Tannehill, I should say. Got it again. Boom, boom. You know, this guy's been trending upwards. Mid-season insertion, but he runs the ball a lot. He only has one rushing touchdown, but he's minimized turnovers, which is huge. And game today against the Raiders, defense isn't great. I think he has another big one. He's been just climbing up that board. He's still totally available though. I think right around 25% ownership. Not a ton of people are playing him, but I just think it's a go-to situation. I see Josh Allen when I see this guy out there. He plays the same way. I played against him in college too at A&M. Of course, we won. But anyway, he was a stud. He had a great game, and yeah, I think he breaks loose.
I like that pick a lot. I'm going to go with a tight end here, Ian Thomas. Look, this guy was doing nothing, barely playing all season. I think he has like 2 catches on the year or something coming into last week.
Who that is.
Well, he is the now starter for the Carolina Panthers because Greg Olsen's going to be out against the Falcons. And we saw last week, finally, he reappeared when Olsen had that concussion. He played 43% of the snaps. And look, this guy has a resume, actually. Over the last 5 games for Carolina in 2018, he had 246 yards, scored twice, averaged 6.4 targets per game. I think you can count on him, especially in daily fantasy, by the way. He's like the stone minimum. You gotta love that. He opens up so much else for you in terms of building your lineup. So if you need a tight end streamer, I think this is a guy you can count on.
The Ian Thomas is to the Panthers as Caden Smith was to the Giants.
Exactly. Exactly. There you go. See, so there's some players you guys can go pick up for your lineups and actually feel so much better about yourself. See, you're not even worried anymore. You're good.
Get Eli.
All right. Thanks,
Do
Steph.
it for your girl.
Great stuff. Time now to head into our first over-under, where we take a player and a stat, and our experts decide whether they'll go over or under that total. So why not start with Nate's suggestion and talk about Ryan Tannehill, as he called him. Since taking over as the starter, the Titan is a top 5 fantasy quarterback. Our line this week is 23.9 fantasy points on the road against the Raiders. Andy, you're up first. Over or under?
Yeah, I set this line, and now I feel like I set it too low. I'm taking the over. I think we can go way over this. I think it's going to be a big week from Tannehill. Just like we all predicted, Ryan Tannehill now leads the NFL in yards per pass attempt at 9.1. He's thrown multiple touchdown passes in 5 of his last 6 games. He's completing about 73% of his throws, just a ridiculous season so far. He's been tremendous off of play action. That makes sense with Derrick Henry in the backfield. He's just been great, and he's facing a defense that gives up over 8 yards per attempt. He's going to go way over.
Brad, you seemed a little surprised by that.
Well, yeah, the fact that Andy wanted to raise the threshold on this even higher. It's an aggressive number.
Huevos. Huevos, my friend.
Yeah, you have huevos gigantes, my friend. I have shrivelly team raisins, but I am going slightly over on this. I think Barron's brought up a great point. The 9.1 pass yards per attempt that Ryan Tannehill has exuded. Oakland's given up a 9.1 average depth of target this year. 5 players have crossed this number, on the over against them. I think there's a 3-touchdown game, close to 300 yards under the belt of Ryan Tannehill this week. So I'm in agreement. Slide over on Tannehill, but let's keep the number at 23.9, shall we?
Yeah, and I'm going over too, and I believe the best way to kind of quantify this is when you think about Ryan Tannehill is like half-baked. Like, have you seen the back of a $20 bill? Have you seen the back of a $20 bill? Oh, that's like Tannehill with the Titans versus Tannehill with the Dolphins. And I understand that he's only gone to this number. He's only gone over this number twice. But Oakland gives up the 4th most points to fantasy quarterbacks. And I feel that Tannehill will throw for like 300, get a passing tub, run for 1, and that'll get you over that 23.9. So there it is, over.
Straight cash, homie.
All right. Great stuff, guys. So how about we help a few of our viewers out and send some roster questions by sending you guys over to the monitor to take your pick.
Let's do it to him, man.
As I just leisurely stroll into the screen here, fun one from Jess, needs 2 for a flex. It's a non-PPR. We have some really good options here, by the way. How do you feel about Sony Michel this week?
I can see a game script where he gets out of it, and you can't really trust those New England running backs, and in the playoffs, I'm not going there.
Yeah, I am absolutely going Nick Chubb. I don't even think Nick Chubb really deserves to be in this question, to be perfectly honest. He's been great all season. Going to see a ton of work. Comes down to Darius Geis and Devin Singletary for me. I don't want anything to do with Sony Michel if I don't have to. This is a sneaky good matchup for Singletary. The Ravens give up about 4.5 yards per carry.
Yeah, and it may be the upside down week, and so can the Bills?
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's go. Let's roll.
All right, next one.
3-point killer.
3-point killer, like that.
3-point killer.
Needs 2 flexes. They're all flex questions today. It's a half PPR. We got John Brown, who I talked down earlier, Golden Tate, Mark Ingram, Kenyon Drake. Kenyon Drake hasn't really done a thing since that big game against the Niners. His debut was spectacular. It's been pretty boring ever since. I'm definitely going Ingram. Again, another choice here that is brutally obvious to me. So it's Golden Tate or it's John Brown.
That's a hell of a matchup right there for Golden Tate.
This guy gets to face the Philly secondary, which has been a winning move all year.
Magically delicious.
Yep. Definitely doing that. We'll do one more.
J. Diaz.
Another flex. It's a full PPR. It's Debo, James White, Kenny Golladay, Jamison Crowder.
Ooh, with no left
Scott has
bell.
made some promises about the Jets offense.
And no left bell
today.
So is he the pseudo running back today?
Or do we get another big James White performance in KC in what could be a fun
But we know he can't trust New England running backs.
All right. You want to do it? Do it.
Do it to it.
There it is.
Let's
That's
roll.
it. You're flexed.
There you go. Good stuff, guys. Okay, we head to LA with Matt and Liz for our next quick slant, and we are talking Panthers, Falcons, guys, with Carolina firing Ron Rivera this week. The big question is, how is that going to affect the Panthers' play calling?
Yeah, we got a couple of Garbo teams coming together here at the end of the year. I love these games for fantasy. Couple of bad defenses, but some offenses that we do care about. And especially the Falcons right now, guys. They have gotten healthy here to end the season. Just in time, just in time for that.
Poor Arthur Blank, by the way. He's like, I'm going to make some changes. I don't know if I can make those changes.
He'll be fine.
But Arthur Blank will be just fine. But I don't know about the rest of the squad. So Julio Jones is back, right? Austin Hooper is back. We saw Devonta Freeman return in Week 13. I think this all benefits Matt Ryan, who has certainly struggled. He is my QB8 on the week. Austin Hooper, I think, returns to a top Kyle 6 tight end in this week. Julio Jones, obviously, you're not going to sit. And I don't know, what else are you thinking, Matt?
Well, Calvin Ridley has smashed the Panthers.
Russell Gage, I would say. Any Russell Gage appeal decreases now because with Hooper back, those underneath targets are going to go away.
Yeah, that's a great point. You're not looking at those like 8 catches. But Calvin Ridley, every time they've played the Panthers, he's really gone off, and I think that's going to happen.
Do you think Christian McCaffrey comes back in a big way this week?
Yeah, I've gotten some people ask about that. Like, they've changed the play caller. Norv Turner is now the special assistant to the head coach, not the assistant head coach, the assistant to the head coach, very Dwight Schrute-esque there. And so he's not calling the plays. His son, Scott Turner, because nepotism is forever in the NFL, he's going to do the play calling. Yeah, that too. He's going to do the play calling, but I still think McCaffrey gets his usual workload. That's not something I'm concerned about.
But his production's been down. I just think he's going to have one of these big games. It's like the minute you stop talking about a guy, that's what happens. You know what I mean?
think this is pretty much close to like an everybody in the pool type of game because I like both the Panthers receivers. Obviously, I like Ian Thomas a little bit. Even Kyle Allen's probably not the worst streamer, but I think you can probably do better. But in general, I think you probably try to just break ties in favor of getting your Falcons and your Panthers in your lineups.
Yeah, a lot of points.
All right, great advice. It's time for another break here on FFL. Coming up, who will cause fantasy damage this week? Liz has been saving her voice for this and has the answer. Stay with us. Andy Barron's breaking it down for us. We'll get to that in a second. Welcome back to Fantasy Football Live. Let's kick it over to Liz, who's standing by with some sleeper picks for us in a segment we like to call Fantasy Damage. Liz?
Well, we've been talking up Fitzmagic, so I think it's time you grab that tracksuit and a slice of kid's birthday cake because we are going to go in Week 14 with, as Brad calls him, the Lorax, right? He has put up back-to-back top 7 fantasy outings, and he's also scored 5 touchdowns over the past 2 weeks. He's going to face the Jets' pass defense, which has forced a paltry 7 interceptions while giving up nearly 260 receiving yards per game. I think he's going to do some manage. He's got 15 money throws on the season. That's QB 10 for that statistical category. Between his connection with Devontae Parker, who has been electric over the past few weeks, and the absence of Jamal Adams, I think that Fitzpatrick has top 15 quarterback appeal in Week 14. Moving on to a wide receiver, the Lazard King, baby. Let's talk about Allen Lazard in Green Bay, who has emerged as the Packers' #2 wide receiver. Now, admittedly, that's not a whole lot because behind Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones, the volume hasn't exactly been voluminous, frankly. But when Aaron Rodgers has wanted to push the ball deep, he has trusted Lazard, who is coming off of a 100-plus yard outing, and he's facing facing Washington, who got absolutely flayed by DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel last week. So he's a boom or bust wide receiver 4, but if you're looking for a high ceiling flex, I think you can do a little bit worse than Lazard. Finally, at running back, I don't really like the matchup for Darwin Thompson this week, but I think his name needs to be mentioned. Both of the D. Williamses for Kansas City's backfield are out with injuries. That leaves LaShawn McCoy and the rookie Thompson. Now, McCoy hasn't really gotten more than 10 carries per game. Obviously, he's fumbled, so Andy Reid has been a little bit reluctant to give him a workhorse load. So I think that means Darwin Thompson will be in play here. Again, I don't like the matchup against New England, but let's keep him on the radar to see what he can do.
All right, great stuff. Thanks, Liz. One of our favorite segments is back. We head to Fantasy Court, where justice is always served by the one and only Judge Andrew Barrett. I can't even get through this.
You're experiencing the wig for the first time.
This is great. This is great.
I know, you think you're ready for it, and then you really see it for the first time, and it's pretty dazzling.
Especially when you add the dance moves, it's just it's
We are going to go with basically the essential question that comes up this time every season. This is from Fantasy Football Guru. They write, Andy, should teams who are out of the playoffs continue to work the waiver wire? Just wondering, because some may want to help certain teams who are in the playoffs. Look, the lowest circle of fantasy hell is reserved for people who have been eliminated from the playoffs who keep messing with the waiver wire. No, they cannot make claims. You cannot make, I'll say it again, you cannot make waiver claims if you have been eliminated from everything. If the playoffs have started in your league, you're in the consolation bracket, you're a 5-8 team, and you're out there adding Benny Snell, you're out there adding Bilal Powell, you're like the ghost team that doesn't know it's already dead. Stop. You can't do this. I understand there are leagues where there's a dynasty component or there may be incentives not to finish in last. Maybe you're concerned about your Yahoo ranking, whether you're diamond, you're platinum, you're gold, whatever Brad is. Maybe he's burlap at this point. I don't know what Brad is. I know you're concerned about that. You gotta stay out of the way. Don't place claims, for the love of God, don't do it. Let the grown-ups play. Just sit in your consolation bracket, set your lineups. I get all that. Don't place waiver claims. No, the court
Well, that sounded like a Brad Evans burner question anyway.
may well have been.
All right, the judge has spoken. So remember, if a last-second play or a missed kick costs you your matchup this week, we want to hear about it. Vent to us. Send a video to Yahoo Fantasy using the hashtag FFLBadBeats, and Andy Behrens will bring justice down upon you. So let's get a check of our social channels to see what kind of help you all need. Matt, Liz, what's going on?
Yeah, we're going to grab 3 questions from our chat room here, so get those questions in now. First one I want to hit, though, is from Dustin from Facebook, who has a couple interesting ones to ask you. Look, this is a big-time question. Hello, friends. Feed the hungry goat. He's got some pancakes and, like, that skull cow emoji thing. Very clever. But he's got to pick 2 between Michael Thomas, Julio Jones, and Stephon Diggs. Like, these are 3 good players, and he's got to sit one of them.
The first one?
Which one? Michael Thomas, Stephon Diggs, Julio Jones. Which one do we like the least here?
We probably like, oh, geez.
I'll tell you, I think it's Julio Jones. I know we said that this
because
is
he's not 100% healthy.
Not 100%.
His first game back.
Yep.
And he's also, hey, this is a narrative. He has trouble finding the end zone.
Also, Stephon Diggs has no Adam Thielen as well.
Right,
Still.
so the volume there is nice for him. I guess that means more Kyle Rudolph, lucky us. But yes, I guess if you're going to sit one of these guys, I'm going to agree with Matt and say Julio.
Yeah, it's a tough one, but you got to look. This is the big time weeks. You got to make these decisions. Josh Surley from Facebook also wants to know, look, come on. I think this is an obvious answer, but maybe people are worried because he hasn't been finding the end zone. A couple of siren emojis, Kareem Hunt or Alvin Kamara in the flex. Look, Hunt has a great matchup, obviously, against the Bengals. He's starting to siphon a little bit more rushing work from Nick Chubb, and he's got that passing game role.
True, but David Njoku is back this
point.
week, so maybe those underneath targets won't be as voluminous as they have been for Kareem Hunt. I still like him, but there's no way you're sitting Alvin Kamara. I know he's not scoring touchdowns, but what goes down must eventually rebound back up, and we've been saying it a couple weeks. Eventually it's going to be true. I like Kamara.
Book it. Kamara finds the end zone in this matchup. All right, last one we will take is also from Patrick from Facebook. He's got an alien emoji, that like Star Trek thing's up there too. That's cute. Pick 2. between Jamison Crowder, Marvin Jones, Dede Westbrook, or your boy Mike Gesicki in a PPR. I think the obvious one here to me is Marvin Jones. He's been hot lately. The Minnesota secondary is very beatable. But who's our second one here?
It's Gesicki. Who are the other two?
Jamison Crowder or Dede Westbrook. It's not Dede Westbrook. Like, that guy's dust. Stop trying to play Dede Westbrook.
We're not going to do Dede Westbrook. So I think, do I want to rely on Mike Gesicki, who is not reliable, or Jamison Crowder, who is continually seeing a bunch of targets? Also, without Le'Veon Bell, you have to imagine that Jamison Crowder's target volume is going to go up. So I am obviously going to go with Crowder, and the other one Matt said.
Marvin Jones. Yeah, look, Liz, you're making some great points here. Even if your voice isn't all the way there, you're still bringing the heat. So yeah, I agree with you, Jamison Crowder in a good spot here. So keep plugged in all day to the chat room. We are going to be helping you through the rest of the show.
All right. Hey. We've been busy since then. The wig has moved, and it's time for quick slant time again, because you're going to take me super seriously right now. We're talking Kansas City and New England. The Patriots host the Chiefs in a rematch of last year's AFC Championship. But both teams have had their issues this season. So, Brad, let's send this one to you. What are you looking forward to in this one?
Yeah, I'm really curious to see the performance of one Patrick Mahomes. I mean, you look at what New England has done this season. Yeah, they've really bottled up a lot of meek quarterbacks, and this is the mighty Mahomes we're talking about. But Mahomes' numbers have really slipped compared to last season's breakout efforts. You look in, 6 of his last 7 contests, he has fallen short of 20 fantasy points a number of times. And a player right now, you worry about obviously the paper opponent here, because New England has allowed the fewest fantasy points to the quarterback position. Is it conceivable that Mahomes goes out and goes for like 250, maybe a couple of touchdowns, maybe a couple of INTs? I say that's very much on the table. He is no windmill Dominique Wilkins slam dunk to get you on to the next round. So if you're one that doesn't adhere to stupid axioms like always start your studs because it's lazy analysis, Mahomes is somebody that, maybe you debate the merits of a Sam Darnold or a Ryan Tannehill or a Josh Allen as well ahead of him. Guys, am I crazy in terms of that stance?
I'm going to say that even though I stumped for Ryan Tannehill earlier, starting Ryan Tannehill ahead of Patrick Mahomes is pretty crazy. I don't think that's something I'd do.
I don't think Brad's crazy, though. The last 2 matchups in this series were high scoring, and I don't think this game is going to be. We don't know which Kansas City back we can trust, okay? Tom Brady doesn't trust his young receivers. I think a lot of Edelman, a lot of James White. I think White's a great play in this game, but 24 points is going to be enough to win. I also think New England on a bounce back is a great bet today.
That's the one thing you can't miss out on. The Patriots got beat down in Houston, so they're going to come back strong in Gillette Stadium. Expect them to keep it tight on defense.
One thing you can definitely do against Kansas City defense is run the ball. They give up over 5 yards per carry. Any
upside down, Sony Michel.
Yeah, exactly.
3 touchdowns.
So tough to trust, but it could be one of those blow-up weeks.
Yeah.
All right, good stuff. It's time now for Brad Evans to give us his gambling advice. You may not be in the fantasy playoffs, but there's still a chance to come out a winner. Brad, take it away and fade the noise.
Yeah, time to make that mucho dinero, Team Rivals. After it here. With our first matchup, let's go back. Tank just touched on it. Kansas City, New England. I think the consensus there in Sunnyvale is that New England's going to come out and potentially mollywop, as Tank would love to say, the Kansas City Chiefs. And I'm in agreement with that perspective. Look, unbelievably, you never see this. Only 46% of the public spread tickets, according to Sports Insights right now, on New England at -3. People are expecting the Money Mahomes version to come out of the woodwork and really suplex this defense. But, potentially having Jason McCourty back, you got Stephon Gilmore there to deal with. And New England has been a covering machine. 11-5 against the spread in the last 16 games. And listen to this, guys. The last time that Julian Edelman and Tom Brady went on the field together, lost at home, it was 10 years and 2 months ago. I had a lot of hair back then. It's been a minute. Give me the Patriots -3 in this one. Let's move on to Seattle and the LA Rams. The Seahawks catching 1.5 here. 63% of the public spread tickets right now on the visitors traveling to SoCal. Seahawks, in their own right, have been covering machines. 4-1 against the spread the last 5. The Rams this season, 8-4 ATS. Against the spread, and Seattle's gone over in 14 of its last 20 contests. I do worry about the Legion of Gloom, that secondary, which is vulnerable for the Seattle Seahawks. but I think this rush defense is better than advertised. I think Russell Wilson's just got, magic in his back pocket that he's going to bring out against this defense. And I love the 1-2 combination of Chris Carson and Rashad Penny. We're going to do some serious work in this one. So give me the Hawks. Really on the money line, because why would you lay or get the 1.5 when you get better odds on the money line? That would be the sound wager there. Let's go to the Monday night affair with the Giants and Philadelphia Eagles. 56% of the public spread tickets right now on All Shucks Eli Manning and company. The Giants 2-6 ATS in their last 8 contests. 4-2 though in their last 6 games against the arch rival Philadelphia Eagles. Giants are catching a ton of points here. They're getting 9.5. I think that is the appropriate play. Philadelphia has been dreadful covering the spread, 2-5 ATS in its last 7 efforts and 4-8 ATS on the year. So again, give me the Giants. I think they lose this game, but only by a field goal. 9.5 points is an absolute gift. Let's stay in the Big Apple and talk about Bilal Powell. You got to sound like Tom Brokaw when it rolls off the tongue. Bilal Powell, 52.5 rush yards. That's the over-under. That's it, folks. Look, he has been the prominent theme on this edition of Fantasy Football Live. He's trending on Twitter right now. There's so many fantasy questions coming in regards to the elevated backup. I am pounding the over on 52.5 rush yards. Look, I know the Jets' offensive line couldn't open a hole for a cockroach, but it's Miami. Second in terms of most adjusted line yards allowed. 4th most fantasy points allowed to the running back position. 14. Let me repeat it in case you're deaf. 14 running backs have gone over this number. Bilal Powell, he hits 18 touches. Things really open up. He does magical things for fantasy purposes. He is going to be a playoff hero. Take the over on this. Put him in your lineup. March on around 2 and let the confetti rain down. Make that money, Team Huevos, or don't thank me later.
All right, great stuff, Brad. How about we hit the phone lines for some play calling? Remember, the number to call is 877-FFL-GURU. And first up, we have Lance from Tampa Bay. Good morning, Lance. What's your question?
Good morning, everybody. Happy holidays.
Thank you.
Okay, so I need to choose 2 of these, but one needs to be a wide receiver, and it's a full PPR. I have Curtis Samuel, Austin Hooper, Snell, or Zach Pascal. Thanks a lot, guys.
All right, so one of them has to be a wide receiver. So we have a Samuel or Pascal question here. I think I'd go Zach Pascal.
Yep, absolutely.
That Tampa defense. And I'm going to start Benny Snell. Last 2 weeks, it's been 37 total carries. We know he's the early down rusher for that team. I like their chance to find the end zone.
I'd like a prove it week from Hooper first. I mean, there's a lot of really good cheap tight ends. You might have a Higbee who's cheap. You might have a Griffin who's cheap. So we've seen guys step into those roles. I want to, as good as Hooper was to us, he's missed a month.
Right. And we don't know if he's going to be on any kind of snap count when he comes back, too.
Okay, there you go, Lance. Hope that helps. Next question, we have Matt from Montreal. What you got? That was my French-Canadian accent, by the way.
How you doing, guys? Thanks for taking the call. Now, big loaded question for you guys. I need to start the 2 best players. Doesn't have to be wide receiver or running back or whatever. There's a lot of wide receivers in the question, so most likely that. Out of the 5, so 2 out of the 5, no PPR. Now, starting off with Tyler Boyd, Keenan Allen, DK Metcalf, Marvin Jones Jr., or we can go with Jamal Williams. Thank you very much, guys. Have a nice playoff time.
All right, Brad, let's test your knowledge. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to go first and foremost here with Tyler Boyd. I think it's an excellent opportunity for him to have, probably a 5 to 7 catch, 80-yard, 1 touchdown kind of game with a red rifle, throwing him passes. So give me Boyd. And then I'm going to still stick with Keenan Allen here. Look, I know Keenan Allen's been a massive disappointment. I mean, he was the #1 fantasy wide receiver after week 3, and he's just slipped into a massive slump. But he has scored in back-to-back games, so saving some face there. I think there was an excellent opportunity for him today to get you another 7 to 8 receptions, 65 to 75 yards, and that potential touchdown. So pretty safe floor with both these guys, and they're my top 2 choices.
Yeah, instead of Keenan Allen, for me, I would go with Marvin Jones Jr. I mean, I think it's one of those games where he blew up against the Vikings last time. It's a hell of a matchup. They give up the 6th most points to fantasy wide receivers, 16 total touchdowns to wide receivers, and I just think he's a great player, and I like him a little bit more than.
You're not worried about Blau? I mean, has almost no NFL experience. I know he was okay against.
Yeah, he was all right on Thanksgiving.
Fair enough.
And more than likely, they don't get blown out by the Vikings because they got beat by Seattle. They need to bounce back to stay in the playoff race, so they don't have to sling the ball around.
What I did like about Blau is he focused on when he threw downfield, it was Galladay and Jones. He wasn't throwing to third or fourth options. He was going. He knows where his bread is buttered.
Okay.
I'm with Brad on this one. I'm going to start Keenan Allen over Jones, but I hope the right answer is Jones. I need a big week from him.
Okay. And our last call is Tom in Michigan. Tom, what you got for us?
Hey guys, half-point PPR. I need to start either Christian Kirk, Deebo Samuel, or Emmanuel Sanders.
Whew. I'm probably going to go Christian. Man, they're all facing nothing but good defenses involved in this question. I'm probably going to go Christian Kirk on volume. I just don't know what it's going to look like for the Niners this week.
Christian Kirk has one game where he scored touchdowns this year. No, it was a 3-touchdown game. That makes a mark, right? But I think Deebo's the guy. I think he'll get a little bit less attention from that New Orleans secondary, and he reminds me of Anquan Bolden. I think he's a great hold in dynasty leagues. I think Deebo has a big game today.
And if you look at it, I mean, basically all the stuff you said about Christian Kirk, Marshawn Lattimore is probably going to be on Emmanuel Sanders. Therefore, Deebo is going to be running the slide, and you have a great matchup against the Saints.
Yeah, if you could guarantee me volume with Deebo, not that I know that Christian.
Well, they're not going to be able to run the ball, so you're definitely going to get some volume in the slot.
All right, looks like Deebo is across the board for us. Tom, hope that
Who
helps
wants some
you.
more Deebo?
Another commercial break for us. Coming up, Tank gives us his DFS picks. You will not want to miss these.
Yeah!
Welcome back to Fantasy Football Live here in Week 14. It's time now to get another over-under. Tyler Lockett had a big Week 9, but since then, the Seahawk has had just 4 catches in his last 2 games. Can he hit that number tonight against the Rams? Brad, 3.5 receptions is the line. Are you over or under?
Hells no, I'm not over. I'm taking the under on this one. This is a lock, folks. How could you trust Tyler Lockett right now? What has he done the last three weeks that inspires any kind of confidence? If you've forgotten or you've been, just in a coma or something during that stretch, let me refresh your memory real quick. He's seen 9 targets. He's caught 4 balls. He's not accumulated more than 70 yards during that stretch. So, look, he's going to see some Roby Coleman in coverage out of the slot. He lines up in slot 69.9% of the time. Roby Coleman's only given up an 80.2 pass rating to his assignments. Even when he slips outside, I agree with Loza's, take on this earlier. He's going to see a lot of Jalen Ramsey. Look, this is going to be nothing but Rashad Penny, Chris Carson, and probably some DK Metcalf, maybe little Josh Gordon mix in there, and Russell Wilson making plays with his legs. You cannot trust Lockett in the opening round of your fantasy playoffs based on the recent trend and knowing he may not be anywhere close to 100% healthy right now?
Tank, what do you think?
Wrong. That's what I think. Now, Tyler, actually what I'm looking for is like some positive regression because I understand he's only had 4 receptions in the past 3 games. They're going against the Los Angeles Rams where the Rams are playing for a playoff spot and Seattle's playing to be the #1 team in the division. So I'm expecting him to get over that Pilgrim Ebola, which he had last week. He had the flu, the Ebola, and he's going to bounce back and he's going to ball out this week. So over for Tyler Lockett.
All right, Matt, round us out.
Look, Brad, I'm not asking for trust. I'm asking for a leap of faith, and I am taking that leap of faith with Tyler Lockett. I know it's been slow lately, but 4 catches is not that much for him to get here. I am going to go over, and I think this game turns into a high-scoring affair. That means the Seahawks are going to need some vertical plays from Tyler Lockett. I think he gets this one. I am going over.
The dudes with the heroin.
All right, let's stick with the wide receiver theme and have Matt Harmon hit on a couple of wideouts he likes and dislikes in Week 14. Harmon, what you got?
Yeah, I was all ready and excited to talk about Will Fuller in this spot. He is not going to play, but good news, we've got a direct replacement. You can just sub in Kenny Stills here for the Houston Texans. I really like Stills' matchup against the Denver Broncos here, who are giving up the 10th highest passer rating on deep throws this year. We know that Kenny Stills, just like Will Fuller, has that vertical skill set. We even saw last week where Fuller just barely missed getting a touchdown against the Patriots. Oh, what do? The very next play, they go right down and throw the same pass to Kenny Stills. I think that can happen here plenty with Chris Harris on DeAndre Hopkins. We should see a lot of favorable matchups for Kenny Stills, who played over 94% of the snaps in every game but one that Will Fuller had his little 3.5 game injury absence previously. I think Stills is a very good wide receiver 3 play here who could get loose and make some big plays for your fantasy lineup. Now, a guy that I don't like is Robert Woods. I know that he is coming off a big game, but we've talked about this a lot, at least Liz and I have on the podcast. This Rams offense, while it's showing some more signs of life, they're not really at a point where they can support all of these weapons, and I think that he has the least favorable matchup against Shaquille Griffin in coverage, he's kind of the outlier on the Seahawks secondary. He's the guy who's played really well. He's giving up fewer than 30 yards in coverage this year, just a 53% catch rate. If Tyler Higbee's got a good matchup, which I think he definitely does, if Cooper Kupp has a good matchup, if they should be able to run the ball really well with Todd Gurley, and hey, Brandon Cooks is still a human being that exists, I think that does not leave very much room for Robert Woods. He's not a player that I really like here in Week 14.
All right, great stuff, Matt. Thanks. It's time now for Tank to hop on over to the monitor, give us his daily fantasy advice. What you got, Tank?
I just want to ISO cam on this real quick because I want to troll Brad for a little bit. Just look at that hair. Look at the beard. That's something that you'll never have again, dog. All right, now I'm going with Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Baby. Aerodynamic.
Calling you out.
Right.
All right, so I got Fitzpatrick, and I mean, the dude's been balling out the past couple of weeks. He's $23. Sam Darnold doesn't have Le'Veon Bell, but I guess you could say he hasn't had Lev Bell all season anyway, but I expect this to be a shootout. He's going to be throwing it around a lot. Devontae Parker, he's super cheap. He's only $23. You can't help but put him in your lineup. Moving on to running back. We have Benny Snell. The Arizona offensive line is straight garbage. The Pittsburgh's defensive line is pretty damn good. And so we expect them to control Arizona's offense. They want to take the pressure off their quarterback. That means heavy doses of Benny Snell. He's only $16. Arizona defense gives up the 10th most points to fantasy running backs. Easy play, a lot of volume. Get him in your lineup. Wide receiver. And I hope I'm not setting myself up for the banana in the tailpipe. Tampa Bay Buccaneers give up the most points to fantasy wide receivers. This dude had 10 targets, 7 catches, 109 yards last week. No tubs. I expect this to be a shootout. If he doesn't produce that $16, we have the man Paris Campbell at the bottom basement budget of $10. So one of these two dogs gonna go off if it's not Jack Doyle, so I guess that's 3. Moving on to tight end. Tyler Higbee, they say never messed the layup. Well, this dude straight dunked on Arizona last week. And one thing you need to note, like if it wasn't for Arizona being so bad against tight ends, you may also know that Seattle and Tampa Bay give up a lot of points to tight ends too. And even though he balled out, he's only $11. He's gonna get a lot of targets. Get this dude in your lineup in a possible shootout. And last but not least, we have the Green Bay Packers defense, $12. In a spot at home where they need to mash out, and they're going against the team from Washington. Who's that quarterback that likes to take selfies on the sideline after the game without taking the kneel down?
That'd be Dwayne.
Haskins? Yeah, I think he's going to throw us a couple a day. Get him in.
All right, you heard it here first. Thanks, Take. Let's take a quick look at our season-long Guru Challenge standing.
This is the best part of the show.
Andy's favorite part of the show, obviously in the lead right now. But Liz, close second. Let's see, Tank there.
Keeping on the come
close third.
Close.
And the real reason I was brought in is to help Amanda. Let's come up a little bit this week. See if we can get into maybe jumping Matt Harmon. We'll see. Yeah, guys.
I'm coming for you, Lizzie.
Yeah, that's why Amanda's actually been suspended for a week. Season-long Guru Challenge performance.
1 week probation.
All right, good stuff, guys. It's quick slant time again, this time focusing on the Sunday night affair between the Seahawks and the Rams. Big game in the NFC West. Russell Wilson facing the Rams, who are trying to get going late in the season. Of course, we'll send this one to Liz to talk about her adopted team.
Oh, yeah, please do. Can't wait to talk about these Rams. They've been amazing. Definitely worth all the tumult they put me through with the Bears. But anyway, well, you mentioned the part that I like the most, which was if you look at Seattle's secondary, Shaquille Griffin has been the outlier, the bright spot, if you will. So the question is, which of these players is going to, from the Rams receiving core, show up? And I think I'm liking Cooper Kupp a lot in this situation. He started to catch on last week. And so I feel like the trend shall continue, and I do like his value in DFS as well.
Yeah, Cooper Kupp is definitely in my circle of trust, as is Tyler Higbee, honestly. You know, in DFS, I think he's a pretty solid play.
It's $11 or $12, I believe.
A lot of people will be on him, but I think he's worth it here. You know, this middle of the field defense for Seattle is pretty problematic. So Kupp, Higbee, those guys are good. Brandon Cooks, he could make a big play here, but we're just not getting a lot of signal there. And then on the Seattle side,
are we going to talk about Todd Gurley real quick?
I want to save Todd Gurley because he's in our don't care section. So I got a lot of feelings, a lot of thoughts on Todd Gurley there.
We'll pause that.
Little tease. But I want to talk about the Seattle side too, because this backfield split, is it just clear, like, what if you have, I had a friend just text me during one of the breaks. He's got both Penny and Carson. He's debating playing Penny and James Washington.
So that's my don't care.
That's your don't care?
Yeah.
Oh, well then we'll save that one too. Keep tuning in.
But I would say I have one more thing. So I think, we talked about, obviously Matt and I disagree a little bit as to what kind of coverage Tyler Lockett will draw. It's not going to be shadow coverage because this is 2019 and that doesn't really happen all that often. I think he's going to see a lot of Coleman and also a lot of Ramsey when he's kicked out to the outside. We have seen opposing offenses try to key in on Troy Hill as a vulnerable matchup, and I think that means more for DK Metcalf than it does for Josh Gordon, because we've seen, unlike Gordon in previous years, Metcalf has been absolutely outstanding and progressing week after week. So I wouldn't be surprised, while the volume probably won't be there, to see Metcalf have like a 4-catch, 56-yard, 1-touchdown outing when he is, if Russell Wilson does see the mismatch against Troy Hill.
DK Metcalf, far superior football player to Josh Gordon here in 2019. That's where we are, folks.
Yep.
All right, great breakdown, guys. It's time now for another break here on Fantasy Football Live. When we come back, more advice to get you ready for the fantasy playoffs. Stick with us. FFL, as we get closer to kickoff here in Week 14, let's send it right back to Matt and Liz to get some more social questions answered. Hey guys, how you doing?
Yeah, we're going to hit our chat room up in just a second, so get those questions in now. Use some good emojis. You know the deal. You're paying attention. But first, we're going to take a Twitter question here from Fred, who wants to sit Mark Ingram today. Their other options look like it's Austin Eckler and James White. Also, by the way, it looks like they have a pretty strong receiver core. I'm not really worried about Mark Ingram because when you look at the Buffalo defense, they're a front seven that can get pushed around a little bit versus the run. Their secondary is the strength of the unit.
Absolutely, and I feel like in this situation, I am going to, despite having talked him up as a reliable play, sit James White over Austin Eckler and Mark Ingram.
I like that call a lot. That makes a lot of sense to me. Now, Daniel from Facebook sent a bunch of unicorns. Oh, my screen has just disappeared. This is wonderful.
Thank you, Daniel. That's a way to get looked at.
Yeah, all right. We've got a couple different running backs here and then one receiver. They need just one. This is a non-PPR. Darius Geis, your boy Benny Snell, or Sterling Shepard. Which one
what do you think? What do you think?
You're going to go with Snell?
I'm going to go with Benny Snell. This is non-PPR. Non-PPR is now no longer called standard because 0.5 PPR is standard. So I want to go with the touchdown upside. I think Benny Snell has the goal line looks in Pittsburgh, so I like that.
I like that quite a bit. I think I'm going to go with Benny.
Oh, are you turning the corner?
I am turning the corner. You know, a little evolution. That's just what we're.
I mean, that's how unicorns, unfortunately, are extinct now because those cave people didn't.
Is that factual?
Yeah.
All right. Last one we'll take here. Not even just going to question that. I really think that a lot of people have asked about Josh Jacobs here. You know, this is just a standard one I'm seeing. If you have Josh Jacobs, are you risking it at the 4:25 p.m. Eastern time start?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I mean, if he's been playing through it, and also I don't like I don't like a lot about what's going on. And maybe if he was getting some work in the passing game, I'd be willing to say like, well, they'll use him differently. But he's only being used as a rusher. I said this on the podcast. It reminds me of Mark Ingram in 2015, not being able to lower his shoulder and be as effective. So even if he's out there, I don't know how good he's going to be and how much production he's going to be able to rack up.
That makes a lot of sense. And I'm going to call an audible. I'm going to take one last question because someone finally used the eggplant emoji. Like, give me a break. I've been calling for emojis all season. No one makes this risk.
Tank, did you get it? Did you drop into our chat?
We've got Austin Eckler, Deebo Samuel, or your boy Benny Snell. Is this still another Snell nug here?
What's the format? I didn't see that.
Full PPR.
Full PPR. Oh, I think I might have to go with Deebo on this one.
I'm going to go with Snell.
You are?
I trust him to keep it close, keep it competitive, and it's a good matchup there. Thank you, Jason from Facebook, for finally breaking through the eggplant emoji wall.
Peaches next week, please, people.
There you go.
All right, so I want some more Liz unicorn science. That was pretty good.
R.I.P. unicorns, man.
Okay, so let's get to our final over-under for the week. Last week, after missing 2 games, Alshon Jeffrey returned with his best performance of the season, 137 yards and a score. Let's lower the bar a bit for Monday night against the Giants. Will Alshon go over or under 68.5 receiving yards? Scott, our special guest, why don't you start us off with this one?
You know, you put me in this segment. You want me to say something nice about Alshon Jeffrey. I can't do that. Look, I know he had a monster game against Miami. Did you know Miami has the worst defense through 12 games in the DVOA era at Football Outsiders? A classically horrible defense. We skate to where the puck has been. Alshon Jeffrey averages 58 yards per game as an Eagle. With that ankle, I'm not sure he plays a full game. It's a trap. Go away from Alshon Jeffrey. He's not going to help you.
Brad, what do you think?
Yeah, it's definitely a trap. I agree with Scott here. We're in lockstep. I'm also taking the under on this one. Look, do not fall victim to recency bias and what we saw with Alshon Jeffrey last week. He's actually gone under this number in 7 to 9 contests this season. And one thing that people haven't really noticed about the Giants, this defense has steadily improved, particularly the play of one Jack Ravage and Oris Jenkins. Over his last 4 contests, the cover corner has limited the opposition just a 60.8 passer rating and 0.69 yards per snap, while also giving up just a 45 flat catch percentage. Do not take the bait. Sit down, Alshon. He is completely untrustworthy in the opening round of your fantasy playoffs.
Lizzie, round us out. What you got? Over or under?
Well, while I appreciate my colleague's Admiral Akbar impersonation, I am walking into this trap with eyes wide open, and I am going over on this one. Brad is right. The Jackrabbit has been better over the past few weeks, but the Giants still have allowed the most fantasy football points to opposing wide receivers over the past 4 weeks. And Alshon Jeffrey is plenty comfortable with Janoris Jenkins. He went over this line last year in week 6, in fact. I think that Eli is going to fight back in this one. I think this is a moment for him. I don't think he wants to go out on dad jokes and cargo pants. I think there's going to be more back and forth. I'm going to take the over on this game, by the way, and I think that Alshon Jeffrey will do what he does and catch one of those 50-50s. And Philly is going to need that win given the disgustingness of this division.
All right, thanks, guys. Now, if you want, you can join Liz and the others and get in on that Alshon prop, get some boosted odds, and if you deposit $10, you get 100 in free bets. All you have to do is sign up at betmgm.com/Yahoo and check out the Yahoo Sportsbook specials. So we've spent a lot of time today on things that we care about, but naturally there are some things that we just really don't care about. So Matt and Liz, especially, what are the things that you guys are not paying attention to today?
You know, it got on my radar a little bit this week with Sean McVay trying to take the L on Todd Gurley's usage. I typically, Liz, I appreciate self-awareness from a coach, right? To say hey, look, this is a my mistake thing, but
You think he's lying?
Yeah, I think he's taking the L unnecessarily, calling himself an idiot for not getting Todd Gurley enough usage. We all know there's something up with Todd Gurley. It's clear.
I believe we've heard Brad say arthritic knee a couple of times.
A couple is being
once or twice
a little generous. But yeah, I mean, it was obvious that something's gone wrong medically or whatever. But I said at the beginning of the year, talk about something that repeated itself. I said to the beginning of the year that he might be a fast starter or a fast finisher. We just wouldn't know which is which. It kind of looks like he is starting to get more comfortable since they've limited his workload. And look, of late, he's played much better. I think the last 3 games, he's been good, not in fantasy, obviously, against the blowout against the Ravens. But last week, I thought he really looked like himself against this power run offensive line that they've got going there in LA. And I expect him to have a huge game against the Seahawks here on Sunday.
Well, I like that point a lot. He is coming off of a 20-touch effort, which was more than we'd seen him give. Remember when Malcolm Brown was part of this conversation at the top of the season? And the Seattle run defense is allowing the 9th highest YPC, 4.6 on the season. So we know that the run defense is beatable in Seattle. I don't care, speaking about backfields, about this split between Chris Carson and Rashad Penny. Guess what? They're both RB2s, guys. Chris Carson is going to get all the touches. Forget the fumbling. PD Sunshine. Thank you, Chris Harris, for the reference. I want to make sure I mark it so that I'm not added at or subtweeted. Chris Carson is going to see the most totes. That is the way it is. Doesn't matter if he's fumbling. That is the guy. Rashad Penny, though, to Brad's earlier point, is getting more work in the receiving game. This isn't what we thought it was going to be over the preseason, but we got to evolve. We got to adjust. I am taking Rashad Penny as a low-end RB2 on that flex range, maybe RB2, RB3 range, and I am taking Chris Carson as my RB17 on the week.
The running game is back, folks.
For both
squads.
Love
it.
All right, thanks, guys. Time for some more roster decisions over at the wall. Andy and Tank help you make your pick. Guys, what you got?
Oh, the people need flexes. Philip the boss needs a flex. It's a non-PPR league, so no PPR factor here. That kind of dings Kareem Hunt a little bit. There's a lot of good options, a lot of good
some good plays,
here.
Man.
I want to start everybody. I like Darius Geis against the Packers. The Packers defense gives up 4.8 yards per carry. I know you're on the Pack defense this week, but I do like him.
Adrian Peterson, Chris Thompson, though?
Yeah, that is the concern. He's still basically half of the workload there. I like Marvin Jones, but for me, this is going to be Zach Pascal. That is the best matchup in this one. Again, the Bucs defense, number 31 in the league against the pass.
Yep.
Feel okay with that?
Yep. Do it to it.
All right, that's what we're doing for Philip. Take another here from Jake. He needs 2 flexes. It is a half PPR. Good choices. I called out Joe Mixon earlier. I think he's got to start. Very friendly matchup against Cleveland. He's been basically heroic on the season. He's not been the most efficient runner, but man, the Browns give up over 4.5 yards per carry. And then do you dare go with the double Bengal formation?
No, I'm going with the reverse Eli face, dog. I'm going with the Elijah face. He balls out on Monday night. And Sterling Shepard's going to be a target monster because he has no Evan Ingram. Of course, we got to go to tape back, but really like Sterling Shepard.
It is a filthy matchup, yeah. Sterling Shepard in that one.
And we gone.
He gone. All right, good job. One more break for us. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, we're taking some more calls. Stay with us.
Oh.
How did the Dak thing go?
Oh,
no, don't do that. Don't do that.
The dad.
Welcome back. Before we say goodbye, we're going to say hello to a couple of callers. First up, we have Jesse from Minnesota, who stayed on with us the entire duration of this show to get his question answered. Jesse, what do you have for us?
The entire time. All right, guys. Full PPR, Jamison Crowder or Zach Pascal, and do I bench Aaron Jones over Devin Singletary? Thanks, guys.
Okay, let's send that to Brad first. What do you think?
Oh, you're definitely playing Aaron Jones. Let's get out any of the recency bias there. And I'm going to go with Jamison Crowder. You know, for all the mentions that Scott, discussed in terms of Miami's historically bad defense, I think Crowder, look, I can't believe this, but I am stacking Jets everywhere today against Miami.
Brad is definitely right about the Aaron Jones side of this. So, like, I can make a case for Devin Singletary, but not over Aaron Jones. Better offense, great matchup. I'm going to play Zach Pascal in that one. Again, the matchup, I get it with the Jets. There's no Lev Bell. It's a blow-up spot for Darnold, but man, again, the friendliness of the matchup against Tampa Bay is just too tempting for me. Coming off a double-digit target game, I like him.
But remember, there have been weeks Pascal has disappeared, and Brissett isn't 100% right now.
But then at the same time, you can look at weeks where Ryan Griffin has gone off. You have Robbie Anderson. And then is it going to be Crowder? Is it going to be Demaryius Thomas? So I feel like there's like a more narrow scope in Indy, so Pascal.
Okay, guys, we have time for one last call, and it's Josh, and we're staying in California. So, Josh, go ahead.
Hey, guys, thanks for taking the call. Pick 2 of 3.5 point PPR, Miles Sanders, Austin Eckler, or Bilal Powell. Thanks.
I wish I had these problems. I am definitely going to play Miles Sanders against the Giants. The Giants defense has given up 13 rushing scores on the year. And then, it's tough, but I'm going to go Bilal Powell.
Okay.
You're certainly playing Sanders. I mean, Howard's probably not going to play. I'm worried that Powell's going to be capped at maybe 12 touches, but I still think he's the guy here.
I'm sorry, I wasn't worried about y'all's fantasy problems. I just had to lock in Dalvin Cook on my lineup, so I'm rolling with Dalvin Cook. And yeah, Miles Sanders and Bilal Powell.
Brad, you got anything to add there?
Bilal Powell or bust. I'm all in.
All right. Very good. Good energy today, guys. All right, some final thoughts before we go. We'll start with Matt and Liz. Guys, what you got?
Liz, final thoughts?
I have one. I think we have not mentioned Phillip Lindsay enough. He has a really great matchup at Houston. We saw James White totally flame the Houston run defense, which has definitely fallen apart over the past few weeks. Phillip Lindsay, only $18 in our daily game, so put him in if you have him.
I like that. And one thing that I am watching, I know Tank just talked about Dalvin Cook. I'm a little curious if the Vikings still, even if Cook is going to play, they still give Madison a bit more work, just because I think it makes sense to save your all-star running back for. Hey, listen. This just might happen. Look, it makes sense to save your all-star back a little bit before you get to this playoff run, especially with a matchup in Green Bay a few weeks from now. And by the way, the Lions are so damn bad at defending the run. Madison still might make it happen. They have allowed the third most broken tackles since week 8.
This is just cruel.
I kind of like Madison if he gets 10, 12 touches to make a few big plays
Is
here.
he facing you this week? That's amazing.
I feel like, Tank, do you have a rebuttal here?
I'm so tilted right now.
Hey, I can untilt you. I have a league-winning move for you. Okay, you're gonna laugh. Pick up a defense. Pick up the Chiefs defense for next week when they play Denver. You're not gonna play them against New England. This is available for a few more hours because the Chiefs have a late game today. You got to look ahead in the schedule. The Chiefs in Week 15. You're gonna want them.
I just want to shout out Liz for a heroic effort this week, right?
yes.
Almost no voice. It's like getting fantasy advice from one of Marge Simpson's sisters, but you know, it's good.
I think it to be more a ghost.
We learned about unicorns. I mean, it was great. She brought it. Very good, guys. Okay, is that it? Is that it for our final thoughts? Oh, wait, nope. Never mind. Brad Evans,
Yeah.
I'm sure. Can't get through the show without giving Brad some final thoughts.
All I want to say is this. My favorite bet of the day, Buffalo plus 6.5 at -105. The Bills have a statement game to make. It happens this afternoon.
All right, there you go. On that note, anything?
Josh Allen on pace for something like 11 or 12 rushing touchdowns this year. Pretty sneaky good fantasy season.
You know, if you bet Bill Belichick every game in the Patriots era, you'd be a 60% winner. Take them today against Kansas City.
Dalvin Cook, please be gentle.
And go Saints. That'll do it for us. All of us here in
snuck that in.
Sunnyvale. Thank you for watching. Best of luck to your fantasy team this week. Amanda will be back next week, and they will see you here at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time, right here on Yahoo Sports.
Oh, give it to us, Scotty.